Welcome to Sports Backtalk with Bully and our guest here this evening, Mr. Jay Bartkowski. As it's tournament time, the madness. We're in the midst of it, and the NCAA tournament gets started this weekend. So that's going to be our focal point. Can I say that? Is that the right way of thinking about it?
Sure.
It is. That's what Mike says. Whatever Mike says goes. And Jay's not happy. We only gave him 5 minutes, 4.5 maybe, to prepare.
Emailed them at about 8:10 this morning.
Oh,
I think my brackets, it's still a work in progress, so there may be a change or two that happens. But
it's only Monday evening when
Right.
we do this. There's days left to change your mind and rattle your cage and go, oh, I should have done. Yeah, right?
This will be shown Wednesday, so you got to understand other pools that are out there, wherever they may be. We got to be careful because I don't want to divulge too much information because this is where the real brains come in this year because it's the toughest field ever.
Toughest field ever because
We'll get to that.
we're going to get to that. Okay, fair enough. So where do you want to start then, Michael? If we're going to be careful and we're going to get to that.
Let's start over in the south.
Let's start in the south. Let's see. That's in the upper left-hand corner of your bracket on my
Let's
piece
start
of
with
paper.
the toughest region.
Why is this the toughest region?
It doesn't make sense either. I just love listening to Dickie Vitale and
You were a
Jay
tweet
Billis
full about
last
him
night.
last night.
Well, I didn't tweet too much. I was wondering where he was because I didn't even know the doggone selection show was on TBS. I got confused there. I didn't see Dickie V. I did move over to ESPN because I like to listen to Billis. And both Billis and Vitale went off and they said, how do you, Dickie Vitale, how do you put Virginia, the #1 overall seed, and they got the toughest region to get out of?
I don't understand what he's seeing.
Well, they got Kentucky, Arizona. They got to get through one of those two teams. Lucky they play each other. Okay, looks like.
Is Kentucky that good?
What do you think, Jay?
yeah, they did win the tournament they were in this past weekend.
Who's in the SEC? Anybody?
9 teams that got in the field.
Yeah, they're all between a 4 seed and a 27 seed. Who's there?
That Tennessee's a 3.
Yeah, I think
Can you even name who Tennessee's coach is?
Boy, are you harsh today? What
What does the SEC got? They got nothing. Throw them all out.
Alabama, Arkansas,
One and dones.
one and done.
Tennessee, Texas A&M.
Rick Barnes is the coach of Tennessee.
Wow.
Isn't he?
Nice.
I
don't
think he
know.
is.
I have no
think he is.
clue.
Used to be at
That's why I'm
Texas.
saying who.
Used to be at
Auburn.
Texas.
The SEC,
Yes.
but there's Bruce Pearl,
Yes.
the old Tennessee
The old
coach.
cheater.
They just
Yeah,
keep
there you go.
recycling. They keep recycling these coaches.
And the SEC just keep them in there. So anyway, so you got all these teams in the South that are
Just it's a loaded bracket, Ringer, and I think unfortunately Cincinnati and Tennessee got the better end of it. They're down the bottom, where you got I think 3 of the top 10 teams in the country, my opinion. With Arizona, who has the best player in the country, sitting at a #4. How can you put Arizona, who won the Pac-10 title, at a #4 seed in the Virginia region, which is supposed to be the #1 seed in the overall in the whole thing? We'll get to over in the.
So you want to say
Villanova is.
you want to say Arizona's better than the 16th team in the nation? That's what you're telling me.
I'm telling you, they are. Absolutely, they are.
Okay.
I got them going a long ways, and you'll see. So, over in the south, like I mentioned, Virginia, Kentucky, Arizona, and then down the bottom, you got Tennessee and Cincinnati. I don't think really anybody threatening them. Of course, they will because I said that. But my final 2 I got coming out of that region, the top part, I got Virginia getting knocked off by this Arizona team. I think Arizona's that good. And on the bottom, I got #3 Tennessee. So I got a 4 and a 3 making the Elite 8 out of the South.
How about for you, Jay? You want to divulge?
I had Virginia coming through, and I do agree with having a team that won the SEC and a team that won the Pac. If they're the Pac-20 now, or I don't know how many are in that one anymore.
I get it.
But Arizona won that tournament as well. So that for a game to go to the Sweet 16 to have to play one of those 2 teams, I think is a tough draw. So that Virginia-Arizona game, and I had Arizona beating Kentucky, and I think that's a tough game. But I had Virginia winning, and down in the bottom
So you
half,
got Kentucky beating Arizona in the Sweet 16?
I have Arizona beating Kentucky, and then Virginia beating Arizona.
Okay, yeah. I got these.
And in the bottom side, I do have Tennessee beating Cincinnati.
Okay.
even though they are from the SEC.
Well, we're going to see
But
what Ringer has to say.
I
I bet
think-
she has some SECs getting
Yeah.
through.
Here's my 4 teams to make it out of the weekend. Virginia, Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Kentucky over Arizona because I don't think Arizona's there, but again, I might be wrong. And then I've got Nevada and Miami on the bottom.
Where's Kentucky? What region?
And the SEC.
Okay. And you got them.
Almost all one and dones are done after that.
Then you got Cincinnati and Tennessee.
No, I've got Nevada and Miami.
Miami?
Miami.
Miami's not going to win the
Defense.
first game.
Defense, baby.
I don't think they're going to get
You
through
still
that
remember
first
them beating
game.
the Gophers, don't you? And they're carrying
Defense.
that win.
You watched them play basketball this year. They played defense. Defense wins basketball games at this time of the year.
Yeah, they're up 10, 11, 12 nothing on North Carolina. What happened to the defense?
Things happen.
Okay.
So you're going to be big on Virginia then.
I'm being big on Virginia.
'Cause if you're going defense as the theme this year, you must
I'm
be big
going
on
Virginia
Virginia.
6 times.
Okay.
Okay.
So that helps you figure out what's going on.
That does help me.
Okay?
And that's
At least as of this time.
So your
I got-
final 2 are
Well, I got Virginia. I can't say on this side. I got Virginia and Miami.
okay. We'll
Playing
get to
to go to
the,
the.
that's your Elite 8.
That is my Elite 8 teams.
Okay.
Yep.
Where you want to go next?
Let's go down. Let's go to the bottom. Let's go to the West, which I think is the craziest. It could be the most difficult one to pick, I believe.
Go ahead, Jay.
to get to the Sweet 16. I do like Xavier. I like J.P. McCura. I think he's just enough of a pest.
A Minnesota boy,
A
of
Minnesota
course.
boy that I did go with
Lakeville,
them.
right?
Yep. And on the other side, I went with Ohio State. And that would mean Ohio State's beating Gonzaga, which is kind of everybody's
Yeah.
everybody's hot pick right now is Gonzaga.
I've seen
There's
that.
a lot of people that are on Gonzaga. And as I look at some of my overall bracket and see the number of Big Ten teams I have advancing, I'm a little concerned. That seems like a lot of Big Ten teams for a weak Big Ten year, and we'll get to the rest of my picks soon. But
Okay.
as of right now, I have Ohio State Sweet 16.
Sweet 16. Who's all about on the bottom of that section?
Bottom of that section, I have, to continue with the Big Ten theme, I do have Michigan,
Okay.
Wow.
and I have North Carolina.
Sounds pretty good, except I'll take Gonzaga in
Okay.
place of Ohio State in that other game. For now, that's what I'll go there, and then that's where the upset's going to occur. Zaga makes it to the Elite Eight. They take down Xavier that first week
Yeah.
in the Sweet 16. Carolina comes through and makes the Final Four. That's what I got coming out of the bracket.
Okay, down the upper half, I got Xavier getting knocked off. I think Missouri's going to figure it out. I think they're probably one of the most athletic teams in this whole section. Porter is back. He's got 1 game under his belt. He was a little raw, but he did take 19 shots in that game, which got him into the flow. He only made 4 of them. So he definitely wasn't all the way back, but I think that little time he had on the court in game time situations is going to help him. He's an elite player. He's a top 3 player in the upcoming draft. Could drop a little because of his knee, but I see Missouri knocking off Xavier in the second round, and Xavier will be eliminated by Missouri.
I won't. I don't think you're. I think Xavier's a little overrated. I think they have been all year. They've been very good. Don't get me wrong. But if there's one of the number ones that are going to lose the first week, that would be out there. Obviously, the number 4. To me, that's the one that's going to lose. If there's one that's going to lose the first weekend.
Yeah, and then I got, because of that happening, I got Ohio State reaching the Elite 8, much like Jay. And then down the bottom, I got my Friars knocking off number 7 seed. I think most people are going to go that upset.
Talks about me.
But the Friars are going to give North Carolina everything they want.
Yeah.
Okay, Ed Cooley's doing a great job there out in Friarland. 5 straight years in the NCAA tournament. They've done well. They haven't made any big runs, but they, in normal cases, will win that first game. But watch for the Friars if North Carolina goes cold on their shooting, like they can. But I do have North Carolina and Ohio State making the Elite 8.
You guys have both done a lot of coaching. Have you ever ripped your pants during a game? And if you did, what would you do?
I did it as an umpire.
As an umpire, did you have the
Hopefully-
presence of mind to put a towel on and wear a towel for the rest of the game?
No,
Cooley was brilliant.
I
in
untucked
doing
my
that.
shirt.
And you had a long enough shirt where you
I
could
had a
get
long
away with
enough
it.
shirt where you couldn't tell. Yeah. That was.
So Cooley split a seam, did he?
Split a seam, middle of the game, championship game, and had the presence of mind during a timeout to have somebody put a towel. I'm going to say it's a Powerade towel because of the brands I sell. And
Okay.
they put the Powerade towel, basically draped it behind him, and he wore that
Not
for the rest of the
Gatorade,
game.
but Powerade.
But yeah, I'm sure it was Powerade.
Well, I'm
sure it
guessing
was.
And, you know, the people out there in Providence, they're smart people. You know, they're going to probably go with Powerade over Gatorade.
Probably.
So who's going to the Final Four out of your
Well, I
side?
got. We haven't gotten to the Final Four, so
No,
what's your
no.
Elite Eight?
Okay.
I've got Xavier facing Michigan, so
Okay,
I still
that's
have
right.
I still have Xavier alive, and I have Michigan beating Xavier. I'm going
So
to
the
the Final Four. Yes.
I got. Who do I got?
And I will also say I have Florida State beating Missouri.
I got North Carolina going to the Final Four.
I'm not buying that Porter's going to be ready to go yet.
Okay, so you
I'm
got
not-
Xavier.
I got Florida State beating Missouri right away.
Oh, you do? That
Right out of
very
the
well
chute.
could happen.
Right out of the chute.
Can you see already? I've been changing my mind. Florida State, Missouri. Can't decide which one it's going to be.
Go with your first thought.
Go with my first.
Absolutely. The
it'd
minute
be
you
Florida
change
State.
it, you know you're going to miss it wrong.
So that tough 8-9 game.
So I got North Carolina. You got Michigan.
Michigan,
I got Carolina,
Up on top, I got Arizona.
Virginia.
Virginia.
Okay. They're going chalk. Just call them the Chalk Boys.
Let's go up to the top right-hand corner where
Michigan?
Villanova
Oh,
is living, and I'll just say I got one upset. Well, I've got one upset coming out of the bracket there. I got West Virginia coming into the Sweet 16, beating. I got to pick it up here. Wichita State. So West Virginia at the 5, Nova, Texas Tech, and Purdue. So 1, 2, 3, and a 5 for my 4 teams coming out of the first weekend.
Okay.
And I'm identical to that. Same 4 teams to the Sweet 16.
I think what we saw last year is Bobby Huggins, of course, head coach at West Virginia, a longtime coach of Cincinnati. He just always seems to get his players up, and they always seem to play well in the tournament. They made a nice run last year. I don't know if they made the Elite Eight. I know they got to the Sweet 16, but can't remember if they got to the Elite Eight. I think they might have. So Huggins can coach. I think this is the easiest bracket, and I see Villanova getting just a easy ride all the way through. Might hurt them come the end of the time. But, I mean, Alabama could be a second-round game. They could beat West Virginia to get to the Elite Eight, and that's what I got. I got Villanova making the Elite Eight. There's nobody down below. I mean, I got St. Bonaventure knocking off Florida, but St. Bonaventure has to win the play-in game on Tuesday first.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the Bonnies, and so I got them knocking out Florida, and I got Purdue making the Elite Eight playing against Villanova.
Does Purdue scare you guys as much as they scare me?
As far as
They're going to lose in the first weekend?
They
I think-
could.
I don't have a lot of confidence.
they haven't played well lately, but they got that guard.
Painter's had a tough time. Matt Painter always seems to have a tough time
And
achieving during the big tournament what he can achieve during the Big Ten season. So there's always that to be worried about too.
I got him going to the Elite Eight, but I'm not. It's not.
Who do you see down there that can beat them, though?
No,
That's my problem. It's kind of a. I don't know who made the
I think-
section, but Villanova's smiling.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech could.
Could, but they got one guy they need to come back from injury. I
Right.
can't remember. I think it's the guard, and
Right.
they're pretty deep. They've done well, but they've kind of faltered a little. Kind of like a lot of these teams, they've kind of faltered down the stretch. But yeah, Texas Tech could maybe give Purdue and Villanova a hard time. But anyways, out of that regional, I got easily Villanova coming out to the Final Four.
And I have Villanova beating Purdue with Villanova to the Final Four.
That's what I got. 3 for 3. Villanova over Purdue to get to the Final Four, no doubt about it.
And right there just proves to everybody in the audience that that is the easiest section, if we all agree.
Yeah, I think Villanova's. Got the easiest track to the Final Four. I think that's just the way I look at it.
And now we get down, can I say Murderers Row?
Yeah, that's where I think this is the worst. I think this is the toughest.
This is the tough one.
Midwest?
This is the Midwest. We got Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke all swarming. The good thing for Kansas is Michigan State and Duke will probably have to play each other to move on. I got Michigan State making a long run here, Warner. I think that's a great team. I think they're a top 5 team in the country. And I love Izzo. Izzo's been a little quieter lately, I think because of all the scandal and all that going around, but I think he's going to use that as a motivation. And I see Michigan State making a nice run, and I got Michigan State coming out of the bottom, beating Duke. in the Sweet 16. I mean, think about that. Michigan State and Duke
Yeah.
playing for a spot to get to the Elite Eight. I mean, I don't know who's on this committee. I want to find out.
Yeah, but they're trying to keep everybody excited about the Sweet 16, so they need somebody on a Thursday night or a Friday night. They need somebody to go, hey, Duke's playing Michigan State. That's
Why
a
not
big.
move Michigan State up into the? They got Purdue ranked ahead of Michigan State. How do you do that?
And
How do
all
you-
I'm
how do you
I'm
do that?
saying
Where's
is
the
they-
eye test?
they-
Where's
they're-
the eye test right
They're not looking at the eye test, Mike. They're looking at TV ratings. If they put Michigan State against Duke, is that better than Purdue versus Duke? Absolutely, 100%. 99 out of 100 times, that's the best game. They're going to make sure that they've got an audience. They're going to put that game on second. It's going to be the late game if it all works out. It's going to be the late game, so they got everybody sucked in and they can promo the heck out of it. It's all about TV ratings. That's why Oklahoma State's out of the tournament and Oklahoma's in the tournament because of Trae Young. Everybody knows Trae Young. Try to name 5 other players. Go out and ask somebody. Name 5 college basketball players. First one out of their faces is going to be Trae Young. That's why Oklahoma's in the tournament. They shouldn't be, but they are.
Yeah.
And that's why, because it's all about TV. It's not about the eye test, what we think is the right way. Who's played best? Oklahoma finished 2-8 over their last 10 games. 2-8. And the guy from Creighton last night had the guts to say on TBS they had enough wins in February, in November and December to counteract what they did in February. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Springer, it's the whole body of work. It's the whole
I don't want to
season.
hear about the body
I
of
hear
work.
the whole
body
body of work.
I want to hear what
time.
you're doing in February, baby.
Well, it's Michigan State. The last time
Yeah.
I see Michigan State and Duke play this late there was a finals. We were in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, golfing me and Brian McBride and Kaviak and I believe Brad Olson. And we were in a bar and there was a whole bunch of Dukies in there and Michigan State ended up winning the national
That was between Cleves and Michigan State, right?
So that's going to be a tough thing. Again, I got Michigan State and Duke and or Michigan State and Kansas coming out, and I got Michigan State going to the final.
We got to give
four.
Jay a chance to talk to you
Yeah,
because he's got a big upset.
I see
I-
NC State making a run here.
You are not a Kansas fan. I don't even think Bill Self is a Kansas fan right now.
Bill Self's kind of got that knack of underperforming this time of year too.
Huh?
And as you can see by the number of scribbles on my bracket, I've gone 3 or 4 times back and forth on this game. But I do have North Carolina State beating Kansas.
This coming weekend.
So there's your
And
eight.
so I have Kansas not making it to the Sweet 16. So I have
North Carolina
have
State
North
got the first game.
Carolina State playing New Mexico State,
That's a good.
I got
and I have Michigan State playing Duke.
I got New Mexico State coming through out of there, and then I do have Duke beating Kansas. As much as that pains me, and I just Duke is a team you just can't trust right now at any time, as far as I'm concerned, because they've got so much youth and they rely still so much on the three. I know they got Bagley in the middle and everything else, and he's a man child and whatever else, but they still depend upon
Gary
shooting
Trent
the three,
Jr.
shooting the three, and if they're making them, they're going to be tough to beat. And I can't see Kansas making the Final Four. They're gonna falter some way along the way.
Yeah.
So to me, if you're right and Kansas loses this weekend, I mean, to me, that's the way I'm looking at it. It's a safe pick to say Kansas is not going to make the Final Four.
I think it's a good pick. I really do. North Carolina State's got a very good team, and they've played right up there with the big boys, the Dukes and North Carolinas and all them.
You do realize that means that Jay has 2 Big Ten teams in the Final
That's
Four.
typical of Jim.
I have North Carolina
Big
State
Ten.
playing Michigan State and Michigan advancing to the Final Four.
Wow.
And I took Purdue out, or I would have had 3.
Wow.
Because I really
After
like
you
Purdue.
said how poor the Big
I
I know that's
know.
scary.
See,
isn't it?
I
Dan
know.
Dakich had 3 in the Final Four.
Who?
Yeah, but he had his kids. I mean, his kid goes to Ohio State.
Oh, he
so-
does. Yeah, he had Ohio State making the Final Four.
Yeah, he had Ohio State winning it. And
Oh, he does.
yeah,
Okay.
no,
So our
that's,
Final Four, I got Arizona against North Carolina and Villanova and Michigan State. Okay, out of that, Villanova and Arizona will get through. Villanova will win the national championships. We'll be tearing down the nets in San Antonio with an 80-70 victory over Arizona. So Villanova wins 2 titles in 3 years.
Go ahead, Jay.
see that.
Right?
I have Villanova playing Michigan State like you do, and I have Michigan State winning that game. And I have Virginia playing Michigan, with Virginia winning that game.
Good team.
And it's a little bit, Ringer's theme, a defense. Virginia's a good defensive team, as is Michigan State. So a low-scoring championship.
And
Michigan State coming out on top, beating Virginia by 55 to 51.
It would be low scoring. I like it. I like it.
Well, I got two V's
Here
making the
comes,
final. Virginia versus UNC. Virginia, an ACC battle in the one half. Virginia wins that game. Villanova versus Duke in the other one. And I got Villanova coming out. So
you got
Virginia
Duke making
versus
the final
Villanova.
four.
And I got Virginia winning it all. And I got 61-58. And I'm wondering if that may not be too high.
Yeah.
But, of course, if somebody else gets in there, Virginia doesn't get in there, you still got to have a
Right.
tiebreaker score that makes sense. You can't be so far out of whack one way or the other that you don't get your tiebreaker right, because he's probably right. If it's somebody else, it could be 80 to 75, and then all of a sudden you have no chance. So
Here's something I got for everybody. If they want to use it, they can. There will be 16 teams that advance that are higher seeds in the first round of this tournament. Which ones, I don't know, but there will be 16 higher seeds. In other words, half the games
is what you're saying.
The higher seed will win.
okay,
Okay, my two big upsets are both number 13 seeds. One coming out of the Midwest, UNC Charleston.
Charleston,
They
him.
will knock off Auburn in the first round. Auburn's beat up. They're not healthy. They got a lot of problems.
they're
And
your SEC regular season champion, though.
yeah, but they got knocked out right away in the tournament. And then Marshall, the number 13 seed in the Southeast, is it? Marshall knocking off Wichita State. The Shockers are going home early after switching conference this year. They did get a higher seed. I believe they came in as a number 10 last year and made a nice run. But the Shockers going down. They will be shocked by We Are
Marshall.
That's right.
So you're picking two 13s.
Two 13s. Those
You know,
are,
I always say, and this is just Tim's whatever, you got to pick 111. At least 111.
Yeah.
You have to pick at least 112 and maybe two,
13s.
and you should pick at least 113. Of course, the danger is if you pick the wrong
Yeah, right.
13, you get yourself into a quandary. But it always seems to be, and so here, this is kind of the question I was going to lead into. Is there a 14 out there that
I
could
think
be
there's
the
a 15.
and this is going to lead into
Remember
it.
Michigan State? They were 15 2 years ago, I believe, and got
Is
knocked
there a
out.
16 that can beat a 1? Because they keep saying that it's
hasn't
so
happened.
close. It's so close. Is there a 16 out there that has a chance to
Well,
beat?
Pennsylvania, who do they play?
They got Kansas.
Kansas.
That's a possibility.
I mean, I just
They will be smarter.
Yes, they will.
Okay, they'll have
They will be.
a little more intelligent. Not that
The
Kansas
Ivy
is a
League
pretty good
team.
institution, but
Yeah.
Ivy League. If the 16 does do it, I say Pennsylvania would be the one. Who do
okay. You got a 15 that might pull out of the twos. Purdue, Duke.
I got
UNC,
Purdue. I like what he
Cincinnati.
said. Or one of you two mentioned that Purdue could get an early exit. Maybe it was you, Ringer.
It was.
Whoever Purdue's playing, I don't have the sheet. I don't have brackets. I got notes.
Purdue
What
plays
about
Cal State
What about
Fullerton.
Cincinnati? And I'm not trying to gouge
Yeah.
Cincinnati. I don't know enough about them. When I saw that they were a 2, I'll say I was horrified.
They did win their conference tournament, though, right?
Yeah, that's the
but
AAC.
that means you're a top 8 team. You were the 8th best team,
Better than Michigan State.
better than Michigan State. You were better than
Yeah.
Kentucky. You're better than Arizona. You're better than all these
Yeah.
teams. And I know zero about Cincinnati, so that maybe is a 15 that comes through there, and that is Georgia State. But of
And
course, they're
didn't
20
Georgia
points.
State pull the big upset? Was it last year? Or was that 2 years ago when Georgia State?
Was that over
might be
Michigan
two
State?
Remember they
years
had
ago.
the coach that hurt his back, and coached his kid. And
Could be right.
I remember Mercer knocking off Duke at a 14-3 game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like I said, the 14-3
You're the
games
chopper.
out there. You know, you got Texas Tech with Stephen F. Austin. You know, they're both. That's a game that's being played in Dallas. Who knows what could happen there? You got a 14-3 game in Bucknell, Michigan State. I don't see Tom Izzo being outcoached in a 4-day stretch. I don't see that.
The kid from
happening.
Minnesota, he is not a Bucknell anymore, though, right? He's moved on. There's a Minnesota kid playing at Bucknell,
Okay.
but I think he's in the NBA now.
Montana over Michigan. That's a 14-3. I don't see it. Wright State over Tennessee.
South Dakota State's another team to watch. Also.
Yeah, I had a tough time not writing them in at the 12 spot.
Yeah, that's some family. Jay has New Mexico State making a run.
I do.
Yeah, I
Not
do
only
have-
into the game.
I got the same thing.
Yeah,
I
I
got
do
them
as
winning.
well.
I got them making the Sweet 16.
I have them making the Sweet 16 as
Who
well.
do they play in their first game?
They play Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson's getting a lot of.
Clemson's kind of beat up a little bit too,
Yeah,
is
they're
my
getting
understanding.
a lot of
So
backlash. Not a lot of people high on that team. I don't know why. We'll find out. We'll see if New Mexico State makes magic.
I have both 11 play-in seeds winning, 11-6.
Bonnie's
I
or
think
whoever.
I think Syracuse wins,
Oh,
and I
see,
think
that's scary because I got UCLA.
Bonnie. But I think either one of them can beat TCU.
Yes,
So-
and that's I debated. I'm like, well, you can see I've got it circled. It's like, you know, it's the danger you got. And of course they play on a Tuesday. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a bad thing. And
Right.
Those teams are bitter because Dickie Vitale's putting them down. And,
Oh yeah.
remember Virginia Tech making their long run the one year, coming in as a play-in game. There's usually one of those play-in teams that make the Sweet 16 every year. So if you pick the right one this year in your pools, it's probably going to put you in some money or potato chips.
what else we want to talk about with the NCAA? What else is there? Anything that I mean, it's kind of been. I mean, we've had 24 hours to
Well,
kind of ponder it.
I just look at the overall theme, though, what we talked about earlier, and how this being such a tough tournament and no clear favorites. Yet we have a lot of chalk in our brackets.
Yeah, I mean, that's
mean-
a great point.
Yeah.
Shouldn't this be the year where we got some 4s and some 5s and
But when you
Four,
pick,
Arizona making the Final Four.
I mean, you gotta pick a little
Yeah.
bit, but you can't go wild either. I mean, that's the beauty of the bracket that you run with the point system. I mean, you gotta find that happy medium. You know, last year Michigan was that team that was what Michigan came in like at a 7 last year, and I had them all the way to the final 8. And I know my uncle was all over me. Are you nuts? And of course, as they were winning, what were you thinking? And I'm like, well, what, did you watch them? Did you watch them play? And I mean, I understand they won the Big Ten tournament, but I don't feel the same about Michigan this year as I did last year. I don't have that same. They've got this chip on their shoulder type of thing. This year, it's kind of more like, well, we've been here. We're expected to win, and that can be counterproductive. It works against
What
you.
happened to South Carolina this year?
Who?
Well, exactly. They made a Final Four last year. They're not even in the tournament. I mean, I'm guessing they had to have most of their guys coming back, but who knows?
I think they had a bunch of injuries early, if I remember correctly.
Sounds like
Took them
a
out.
team we all know.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've
they
seen
didn't
that.
have the suspension, but
The
I think
suspension, injuries, but you know what? Like I mentioned to Ringer on a number of occasions. Yeah, we did have that, but what are we doing with 3 Division II or Division III players on our roster? Those are Patino recruits, Canati, Fitzgerald. I mean, we got a lot. We got our bench is Division III players. We should not be recruiting Division III. If we were recruiting Division I players, we don't make the drop like we did. Not saying we would have made the tournament because it looks like the Big Ten we're getting kind of shafted anyways. Nebraska should have got in.
I think
Okay.
with Kanate and Jiju, those were his
Yeah.
first-year recruits, which, if you remember, he kind of came into Minnesota and the situation
Trying to
wasn't the
fill up the
greatest. He's got to
roster.
fill a roster. So I give him a pass a little bit for that, although, you know, you'd think you'd have a freshman or a sophomore or a junior that could have stepped in possibly
Yeah.
at this point. But I think,
See the Gophers in next year.
yes, I do.
All 3 freshmen will contribute.
Yes, I believe they will.
Okay. 2 of them, I believe, they were projecting as starters, or Turo for sure.
Yeah.
But it should be a fun team to watch in the next 3-4 years if they all stay.
Can I just change gears just for a second?
Just for a second.
Okay. Today we got talking about watching the state hockey tournament,
Okay.
and we got talking about Division III, Division I hockey, blah blah blah. We got talking about Minnetonka. Could Minnetonka beat a Division III? Because you got talking about Division III. Could Minnetonka beat a Division III hockey team in the state of Minnesota? No. Without a doubt. I mean, no, because Minnetonka's got Division I hockey players, right? I mean, they got a couple of Division I hockey players, right?
Well, we've had this conversation before, I think, and I've told you this. And even back when I was playing years ago, back in the early 80s, is a lot of times there's Division I players playing Division III.
That was one of the
I've
points that
always
was
said
brought
that.
up.
There's a lot of good players that are playing, but I've told you they are missing the intangibles. That little something that they don't have that makes a Division I player. Maybe seeing the ice a little better, or they can skate as well as all Division I players. Okay, they can move the puck, they can shoot as hard, but it's the intangibles. Where to go when I don't have the puck. Where's the puck going to be? The Division I players, like you watch that, Worth, who I think is a Division I player out of Duluth East, he knows where the puck's going to be. Kind of like Gretzky used to say, why he was so good is he knew where the puck was going to end up. He didn't really care where it was at the time, but where the puck was going to end up, kind of like a good basketball player, how to get a rebound. They know how the rebound's going to come off. So, no, I think Division III hockey's really good, and they're good players.
Aren't most of the kids in Division III now older too?
Yeah, they're playing the junior route
right.
too.
They're going the junior route, so they're really another.
They're still trying to get that Division I.
And that was one of the points I brought up. You got a kid that's maybe 22, 23 against a kid who's 18. I mean, there's some physical aspects to it, but it just kind of got interesting because somebody was like, "Did you get to watch Minnetonka this weekend? And how good are they? And how fast they were skating around?" I mean, Saturday night's game, I only got to watch maybe parts of the first period, but it was fast. They were moving around.
It's a good team. They had a lot of depth, and they could go. What else on the tournament?
Yeah. What else? Do you want to talk about any more of the snubs who got left out of the tournament? And
well, there's 3, right?
3.
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's 4.
Middle Tennessee State.
Yep. USC.
Your boys,
USC.
Middle Tennessee.
And by far the biggest snub of them all was Oklahoma State. I agree with Dickie V. When you beat Kansas twice, #1 seed, and you beat Oklahoma twice, and you beat West Virginia at West Virginia, and all 3 of them are in, and relatively high. Okay, they also, I think, beat Florida. So that's the biggest snub probably in 20 years.
Yeah, it's not right, and it's.
Even on my Twitter, my followers, they said unfollow anything to do with NCAA basketball.
Yeah, but those are all hockey guys.
Yeah, I retweeted it though. So we're trying to slam that. But you got anybody else?
But part of me says, you have plenty of chances to win your way into. I feel sorry for the smaller schools, for the Middle Tennessees, for the St. Mary's, that don't have a chance to play the same schedule necessarily. They don't have the 16 conference games to pick up 3 or 4 of those good wins, like you mentioned for Oklahoma State. I think those are the teams that I'd like to see those teams be allowed to be part of the tournament.
Are those teams getting banished? Are those teams, the mid-majors, are they kind of, because of money, we all know the NCAA, over $1 billion in not revenue, profits a year.
Well, and I'll go back, like I said, try to name a player for Oklahoma State. I don't watch enough college basketball, I'll be honest, to know, but everybody knows Trae Young, and that's why Oklahoma even gets in as a 10, which, Charles Barkley yesterday just flat out said to the guy, the chairman from Creighton, how does Oklahoma get in over Oklahoma State? How can you do that? And it's, like I said, it's all about the money.
Did you watch that interview with Barkley?
I did see
I watched part of it.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, it's about places. It's about matchups. Even last year, it got so bad. Somebody who maybe should have been a 4 or a 5 was really at a 7, so that they could play somebody that was a 10. So at the coaching matchup, it was an assistant coach versus a former head coach. And so they're not placing teams where they belong. They're placing teams so that they place somebody so that they got a promotional matchup. And it's the tournament, and I said this last year and I'll say it probably forever now, the tournament will take care of itself. There's enough excitement about the tournament. They could screw up the bracket and not have any big games. People are going to watch. People are going to be going to Vegas. People are going to do whatever they got to do. I don't understand why they think they need to do more to the tournament to make it. It's already huge. It's ginormous. Why? It's probably the second biggest thing next to the Super Bowl. Why do you need to screw things up? Why do you need, and maybe this is why they're doing it, so people like us sit around and tweet and talk about it on their local cable access show and whatever else and get ticked off so that they got people talking about it. It's just like, what are you guys thinking? It makes me not want to watch it. And it's just like the Big Ten. The Big Ten screwed things up this year. They put the Big Ten, the men's tournament, on top of the women's basketball tournament. They moved it up a week. You got the Big Ten tournament teams that have now not played for 11 or 12 days going into the tournament, all in the name of money, all in the name of going to New York City and getting the tournament move there. And now Mike loves college hockey, so I'll talk about this. Mike, do you realize that they played a best of 3 series in the quarterfinals, then they played a best of 1 in the semifinals on one weekend, and then a best of 1 final on the
Next
last
weekend.
week,
That's the
a
WCHA.
weekend later, and it's just like, I don't understand what the Big Ten's doing. They've lost their minds. They've got this TV network now, and they're throwing everything that is right about a tournament. They're throwing it away. It just boggles my mind.
I think the Big Ten's admitted they made a mistake on the basketball tournament.
Yeah.
I think they've said they're not going to plan on doing that again in the future. That'll be back to its regular weekends, and
good.
I think moving it back to the Midwest, where
Chicago.
it's a lot easier for fans to attend because that's where most of the teams are located. So they've admitted that was not a good idea.
Yeah, you put, and I know a lot of people maybe aren't big wrestling fans, but you put the Big Ten Women's Basketball Championship, the Big Ten Men's Basketball Championship, and you put the Big Ten Wrestling Tournament all on the same weekend. If you're a Big Ten fan, if you've got teams that are involved with this, what are we doing? Isn't the whole idea about spreading things out and making things so people can watch? It's like trying to, I don't know.
It's like taking the Big East and running it into Chicago. Running the Big East tournament in Chicago. Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ludicrous.
Well,
and doesn't
how
make any
about the SEC tournament being in St. Louis?
sense. Yeah.
Or the ACC tournament in New York.
In New York, yeah, it's just like,
The ACC spread themselves out so much.
Yeah,
though. I
at
mean,
least you have a couple of teams up there, but still, most of the teams are in the
where are they at
Southeast.
now?
who?
Colorado.
Colorado's out in the Pac-12.
They are in the Pac-12. Okay.
And where did they have their tournament? Did they have it in LA again, or did they have it like in Montana or someplace?
They're one of the 3 tournaments in Las Vegas, I think. The same.
Oh, that's
weekend.
right. You're right. They had it.
I think it's in Vegas.
Speaking of Vegas, I know one
Speaking
of those
of
3
Vegas.
are going there, and it isn't me, and I know it isn't Ringer. So you're heading out.
I am actually. The 21st I leave, which is a Wednesday, so
You're
I'll pick
there
up the second weekend of the tournament.
Second
basically.
weekend, so you'll have your scouting done. You'll be into the Sweet 16, and your group of posse. There's 5, 6 of you, I believe, that are going.
Yeah, I think we're down to 5 now, because I think we were counting you as one of the 6, and then we found out you were going to be in Florida.
Yeah, I'm in Florida. I
then-
would have definitely
Yeah.
accepted that offer. Right, Diana? So that's it on the NCAA basketball?
Yeah, yeah. I think we got her good. You want to talk any more about the state hockey tournament?
Yeah, we can talk briefly. I mean, the hockey hair is starting to die out, which is good. I'm tired of that. One thing that's, and it's kind of like get out of my lawn or get off my yard type thing, is on Twitter, all these high school players are tweeting out, and they're tweeting to their followers, I understand that, and it's getting retweeted a million times. And that's how
Huh?
I get it. And they're thanking everybody. I almost tweeted on there the other day, I'd like to go back to 1979 and thank my family, because I never got a chance to do that, and thank all my friends and all that for my for getting me through high school. But I guess I just got to get used to how social media is now, and it's very normal for kids to get on there. And
Is it okay to be social media during the game, during the intermissions?
Absolutely not. But I guess I just a little out of my yard. I mean, these kids, keep it to yourself. And I guess if you got something to tweet, that really to me isn't.
Any surprise over the weekend? What maybe was the biggest surprise for you out of the hockey tournament? Because I know you had some time off. I know you watched a lot of it.
How good Minnetonka really was.
Yeah.
They were loaded. They were a little dirty. Number 8 didn't make the all-tournament team. I think he's their best player, but I'm wondering if he didn't make it because, I mean, he gave a cheap shot out, I think, in every game he played. And he could have been easily kicked out of the finals. Number 10 made it, Molinar. He could have been kicked out with that slash. I mean, these kids, sometimes I wonder if they deliberately are trying to hurt other players, and you got to respect the game a little bit too.
And Minnetonka had a win in double overtime in their section championship
Great
game
point.
to make it in. And I mean, how close are these other teams? I mean,
3 seconds left.
I mean, you think about this and how crazy it is. East wins a tight 3-2 game. Andover had a whale of a goaltender. I mean, it just opens up. The point, maybe the thing that sticks out most in my mind about the tournament, in the third place game of AA, Edina 11, Centennial 0. I mean, did Centennial just basically say, we ain't playing? I I mean, Edina was good. Don't get me wrong, but 11-0.
Yeah, Edina, they got outplayed by Duluth East though. So if they could say whatever they want, it would have been a nicer, funner matchup with Edina and Minnetonka, Lake Conference rivals. Yeah, it might have been, but Duluth East deserved to be there. They got that front end line that could play with anybody in the state. Ryder's very good. Worth, hopefully he gets a few offers now that Lou Nanny was telling people to start offering this kid scholarships, and also that kid from
Alexandria.
Alexandria.
How good is he? Seriously.
He kind of disappeared in the championship game.
Okay, I did not see
Thorno.
the championship game.
But he was the best defenseman I seen up until then.
Okay.
I didn't see any real high-end offensive-minded defenseman in this tournament. I think the kid out of St. Thomas Academy had a little bit of that, but defensively he was kind of weak. But I think overall, the quality of play is so much faster and so good, and they're big and strong. And I don't know if I mentioned it to you. I think I might have. It's the first time when I'm watching hockey that I question whether I would have been good enough to play at a Division I level. Just watching these kids, how big, fast, strong. Again, they got the equipment, and they play hockey year round.
But we watched Duluth East against Grand Rapids, and we were amazed after the Broncos beat Denfeld. The Grand Rapids Duluth East game was right after, and it looked like men and boys, and I don't mean that as derogatory towards Grand Rapids. Duluth East was they were a head taller, per person. Just line them up. Boom, 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 boom.
Well, the year before, Grand Rapids was men against the boys.
It's just crazy. But they even talked about it one or two times that I was watching, and I didn't get probably to watch enough of the state tournament. But they talked about how big and fast these kids are. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Now, was Hermantown losing? Would that be one of the big surprises, or was that more expected?
This is probably this year and next year are probably their two weakest teams they've had in the last, and coming up too. They're good coming up. They're loaded. Okay, their Bantams went to AA state. Their Pee-wees went to AA state, and then the last 2 years they've been good. This year and next year are their two weakest teams they have. So I'm not surprised they got beat. That score is a little.
It's
more of a 2-1, 3-2 game. They did win the next day against Matamidi, who a lot of people had winning this tournament. I thought Matamidi was
a disappointment.
Yeah, a very big disappointment. And Hermantown, they'll be back in there, but Greenway, I think, will be better going into the season, and we'll see if Mr. Andrews can coach that Hermantown back in, because I don't see the high end. Biondi will be back, and Peterson will be back, and Gotts will be back, but they lose a lot of scoring and a lot of players.
Well, you said before the tournament, and I think on our show last week, that the goaltender from Hermantown scared you a little bit. Do you want to talk about his play? Because I'll be honest, I got to watch a little bit, but it was in passing. I mean, do you still have the same feeling about him, that he was marginal, not?
Well, same thing with the Edina goal. You're always going to be looked at when you're playing in front of such talented players that maybe the weakest link is going to be your goaltending. He might be facing only 10 to 12 shots a game.
True.
So if he lets in 2 goals, that's what? 80%. That's not considered real good. So I could usually tell by the way they move. If you watch that St. Thomas Academy goalie move around, the eye test. The St. Thomas Academy, you could see how athletic he was. He couldn't handle the puck real well, but he could move around the net really well, and I thought he was the best goalie in the tournament. Their defensemen were atrocious. St. Thomas Academy is awful. But again, getting back to the overall, I think the quality of hockey in Minnesota could be at its highest it's ever been. And I think basketball, I think you guys could both talk about that. I think it's the highest in basketball as well.
Basketball is very impressive right now with the number of kids that are playing at the Division I level. It's pretty scary.
Minnesota's become kind of the hotbed to recruit now for national programs, and see a lot of kids playing.
And how did that happen? I mean, just
I think it's numbers. I mean, the city schools have gotten bigger, and you've got some talent. You start looking at some of the names that are names that are being recruited. These are kids of guys who were playing back in the 80s or the late 90s. Davidson, Gary Trent. These kind of kids, they're products of their fathers and whatever else, and so you're getting some second and third generation guys that are coming through. But I also think AAU basketball, I think, has helped out a lot with that. where they're playing in the summer, they're getting a chance to play more basketball. And
Does that help
For
their
those
development then?
for those elite kids, they're playing a national schedule in the summer, basically.
I mean, they're playing
teams
against
from
the
all
best
over the
of the
country,
best.
right? And I think that's helped. That's made a big
Will
difference.
Trey Jones move right in at Duke and start?
I would believe so.
And I would
that's-
say so as well.
I mean, they've got 1, 2, 3 on the ESPN, whatever number it is. They've got Duke's got 1, 2, 3, and 10 coming in, and Trey Jones is the number 10. So they got 3 other guys that are coming along, and that just it's kind
Bagley
of
will
scary.
be gone. Trent, will he stay? Probably stay one more year.
Maybe I don't know.
I think he'll go test the waters.
We'll see how he is
Well,
this
yeah,
tournament. Yeah.
but let's remember one other thing. They had all this scandal, all these coaches that were supposedly paying for recruits.
Yeah.
You know, all of this is going to come out supposedly after the tournament.
Yeah, because they can't do it now. Yeah.
And I think Duke was part of that. I think they were
Yeah, I think
mentioned.
you're right, yeah.
So the impact of those discussions and if there are any penalties associated with that could impact a lot of players as to what they're doing. You know, a guy like Trent, if Duke's impacted and has to give up a year, you know, at the tournament, then maybe he goes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
maybe kids that are recruited by Duke right now, some of these 4-star, 5-star kids, maybe they don't go there because of all of this stuff. Now, the problem is there's a lot of programs implemented, or implicated is the right word, so we'll see. But there's a lot that's going to come out on that in a month from now, probably a month and a half.
Ready to move on?
Well, yeah. Well, one thing too is there was a conspiracy against USC and Louisville not letting them in the tournament because of this
That's-
so-called scandal.
That's been
That's
one of
why
the
Arizona
theories.
shouldn't be in there. Anyway, let's
What
move.
else?
Let's move. What about the Timberwolves signing Derrick Rose this week? Any
I'm not commenting. Go
good,
ahead,
bad,
I think it's
inconsequential?
he never plays his subs anyway. so is he going to play much? I don't know.
I agree. Is he
He's a
coming in?
Thibodeau boy, though. He's a
Yeah, he
Thibodeau
is. He is.
It's one of
but-
those things. I don't think it's going to make a big deal. It'll be interesting to see how long Jimmy Buckets is out. It's still.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a date, a time when they think he could come back. How long can the Timberwolves hang on? I mean, are they going to end up falling to a 6 seed like Mike probably predicted earlier in the year, and before Jimmy got hurt, could they fall to maybe a 7 even, and end up having to play a number 2 Golden State or a number 2 Houston,
They could drop right out totally.
Yeah, it's so competitive right now in the West. They're only 2 games in the playoffs, I
right now,
believe.
two and a half games.
So they're going through a murderer's row right now. They're getting tested by fire as they
out in
and
Washington and San Antonio.
and then the schedule kind of backs off a little bit.
A huge win for them yesterday.
Big win against
Huge
Golden
win
State yesterday, and of course they were minus Steph Curry, but nobody's going to look at that in the end. That's a big win, and like I said, to me, the Derrick Rose signing is kind of a blip in the screen, and
Yeah.
let's move on. You want to talk Wild at all?
Not really. They're steady. They need, I think, 6 more wins.
You
out
want
of
to talk
13.
about the knee injury at all? How that's going to affect the Wild? Coonan?
Not going to affect him at all.
Not affect him at all.
It was basically for his development. He could have given him a little spark in the playoffs, maybe towards the end of the year. But he still, I thought, was a year away, and he'll get full rehab. And he's a really dedicated kid, so I expect him to be 100%.
Is Parisi coming around, or is it just a
Way
blip?
better.
Way better.
Yeah, way better.
Is it because he's healthy, or just
It
because?
takes a while. You
Okay.
know, injuries take a while to come off of, especially in hockey.
Is Greenway going to play?
Yeah, they're going to bring him in, and
so?
again, BU plays this weekend. If they get knocked out by Boston College, I believe they play Friday night at the TD Garden in Boston. BC against BU, and then Northeastern against my boys, the Friars. And BU will probably get beat by Boston College, and then you will see Greenway in a Wild uniform within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, where was I going with that whole thought? After Parisi, Coonan,
Don't bring up Coyle today, because
No.
he's got 2 goals in the last 2 games, and all everybody thinks he's good.
I will not bring up Mr. Coyle. He's your favorite, I know. Dang it, there was somewhere I was going to go with the whole Parisi thing. Can't remember.
How about some Q&A? Anybody got any questions for tonight?
Lloyd, what do you got for us?
He hasn't been listening.
He has been. He was right over here listening to that whole NCAA conversation.
It'll be a good tournament. There's professional offense.
Yeah, like Mike said, a lot of higher seeds, a lot of 9s, 10s, and 11s, 12s, 13s winning. It could be interesting.
Yeah.
Warren Buffett did that $1 million deal. Probably no one will win it this year.
No.
I don't see how
Impossible.
anybody can win it.
I say if you get, geez, I don't know.
if you get 3 quarters right,
could
if you could get 48 out of 63 right,
you could get all
you
the
deserve like
teams
$100.
into the Sweet 16, it would be a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there you go.
Yeah.
I am going to win the pool I'm in, though, and I'm in 2 of them, but I am going to win the one I really want to win. So that's kind of a fun one.
There it is.
Is that, is
I
that
know
just
where-
the one in your household? or-
Yes, the one in my
Okay,
household.
that's the most important one.
I know where I was going to go. It wasn't even to do with hockey. Of course, free agency opens on Wednesday
Oh.
for the NFL.
Yeah, there you go.
You want to talk about who the Vikings are going to sign as a quarterback? Wait, before you do that, Teddy Bridgewater's decision was supposed to be today. Did anything happen
Nothing.
on whether
What do
he?
you got, Jay?
I didn't hear of that. The thing I did see posted this afternoon was Cousins sent a thank you to the Redskins fans.
They got it up to 128 now.
68.
68 teams in the NCAA.
There's
68.
there's
Yeah.
4 play-in games that'll get it down to 64. They 4 play-in games on Tuesday.
I thought it was just 64 to begin with, and then
It used to be. They made it to 68.
revenue busters.
Good,
That's
good
right.
question. That's Barry Woods.
Then, yeah. So
So Cousins sent a thank you to the Redskins fans. He copied it to the Vikings, and he copied it to the Jets. And then
Interesting.
it was removed later on.
Yep.
So those teams were then removed from it. So you can read
you're
into
saying-
that
so,
what you want.
So you're saying he's going to pick one of those two?
That was the rumor.
Okay.
Now,
Go ahead.
I also heard that Arizona now has a bunch of money and is going to make a run at him too.
And the big reason the Arizona team came up is Kirk Cousins' sister lives in Phoenix. So now all of a sudden Arizona's become a play. He's playing the Vikings a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's where he's going to be ended up. And I guarantee you, okay, Spielman, Zimmer, and Cousins have made a deal already. The deal's done. Okay, they're
Okay.
just going to go through with it, but it's a done deal because the Vikings wouldn't be able to afford to just let all 3 of their quarterbacks walk. All of them know our system. If they don't know Cousins Cummins for sure, then they would probably tell Keenum we need to sign you.
Okay.
Otherwise, I know they got Cousins. It's a done deal. Cousins will be a Viking by Friday.
By Friday, not Wednesday. They're going to make us wait.
No, he's going to go visit a few teams, get some frequent flyer miles, kind
Isn't
of like
it-
Jay does, and then he.
Isn't it interesting how the sports world works? We get selection Sunday yesterday. We kind of get a day kind of to digest it all. Tuesday they start the NCAA games, and then Wednesday NFL goes, hey, we got to get it back into the picture here.
Yeah.
Let's do free agency.
Yeah.
While the NCAA starts on Thursday and Friday.
That's not by coincidence either.
It's crazy. Crazy. Lloyd's got something.
So who's going to be the second quarterback?
Ooh.
Who's quarterback?
Who's going to be the second quarterback for the Vikings?
Who's that third stringer they had last year? Crawford or Crowther or they like
All 3 of them are good. Keenum,
They're all gone.
Bradford, and
They can't
Teddy
afford
are all
any of them.
gone.
They can't
all
afford
gone.
any of
them. I think
Even
Ted-
if Teddy's.
I think Teddy stays.
Teddy,
Yeah,
I agree.
okay.
I think
Teddy
Teddy
stays
stays. I
the
think, and it'll make the difference what the NFL says. If the NFL says he's on last year's pay schedule, he sticks around. If he can negotiate a deal, he's gone.
Keenum's going to be in Denver.
Keenum's going to be in Denver. You heard it here first.
Yeah,
At least
Keenum
that's
will be in
first.
Denver.
I've heard of it. So, anything
What
else?
else? Anything else, Jay?
Thank you guys for having me.
Hey, appreciate you
absolutely.
coming
Thanks
on.
for
As
coming.
I
always.
always try to make you guys look good again. I think I did a good job.
And take
And
our
it's not
advice,
easy.
people. Make these picks that we just did. You'll do well in your pools.
Thanks, everybody.
Don't
Thank
take us
you.
too serious.